right, let's get right into it. The FAA has issued a pretty critical safety update for the Boeing 757 fleet. We're talking about Airworthiness Directive 2025-19-11. The compliance deadline is November 6, 2025, so operators really need to get moving. Let's break down exactly what this means for you. So, here's how we're going to walk through this. First, we'll look at the unsafe condition that kicked this whole thing off. Then, we'll pinpoint exactly which aircraft are affected. After that, we'll dive into the required actions, talk about the cost and operational impact, and finally, I'll give you the key resources you need to get this done. Okay, so what's the story here? Why was this directive issued in the first place? Let's get straight to the heart of the safety concern. Well, it all comes down to a specific manufacturing flaw. There was a report about improper grinding on the inner diameter of the main landing gear's outer cylinders. Now, that might sound small, but it can cause heat damage, and that directly compromises the structural integrity of the gear. And the potential consequences? They are absolutely severe. The FAA's own words define the unsafe condition as a potential collapse of the main landing gear. Think about that. That could lead to a loss of control on the ground or even a runway departure. Yeah, this is definitely a top priority safety issue. So that naturally leads to the big question, which specific aircraft are we talking about here? Whose fleet is on the hook for this? The scope is pretty broad and very clear. This AD applies to all Boeing 757-200s, 757-200PFs, and 757-200 CB series airplanes. And it doesn't matter what category they're certificated in. So, if you're operating any of these 757 variants, listen up, because this directive is for you. Okay, this next part is for all the maintenance and engineering teams out there. Let's get into the weeds a bit and break down the specific actions the FAA is mandating to fix this problem. The compliance process is a pretty logical three-step workflow. First, you've got to perform a records check. If that's not enough, you'll need to do a physical inspection to see if an affected MLG outer cylinder is installed on your aircraft. Second, all of your work has to follow the procedures in the Boeing Alert Requirements Bulletin, no exceptions. And finally, step 3. If you find any affected cylinders, they have to be replaced, period. And just so we're all on the same page, the FAA's language on this is completely unambiguous. Compliance within the specified timeframes is mandatory. There's no wiggle room, unless, of course, you've already taken care of it. All right, let's shift gears from the hangar floor to the front office. Beyond the tactical stuff, what's the real-world's impact on operations? And, the bottom line. To give you a sense of the scale here, the FAA estimates this directive is going to affect 399 airplanes just on the U.S. registry alone. That paints a pretty clear picture of the amount of work ahead for operators here in the States. Now for the numbers everyone's been waiting for, the cost. And wow, there's a huge difference here. The initial check is actually pretty minor, estimated at just $255 per aircraft. But if you find an issue and a replacement is needed, those costs just explode. We're talking 137 labor hours plus a parts cost of $325,000. That brings the total bill for just one affected cylinder to over $336,000. A number like that is for sure going to get the attention of your planning and finance departments. Okay, let's wrap this up with your actionable next steps and the key resources you're going to need to manage your compliance strategy effectively. Here are your primary references, plain and simple. The AD document itself is 2025-19-11. The detailed technical procedures are all in the Boeing Alert Requirements Bulletin. And if you have any specific questions, or maybe you need to request an alternative method of compliance, the FAA's point of contact is Stephanie Brosley. And that brings us to the final and, frankly, the most critical question for your teams to answer right now. How you answer this will shape your entire approach. Are your maintenance records good enough to identify an affected part just by its serial number? Or are you going to have to schedule aircraft downtime for a full physical inspection? Your strategy, your costs, and your timeline all hinge on the answer to that one question.